thank you for your time today to interact on our higher learning accreditation visit that will take place in a couple of weeks. It's really a great opportunity for a university to reflect on where it's been, how far it's come, in consideration of where we're headed. And you all, having contributed in significant ways over 12 to 18 months, about 2 years ago, really helped set the stage for establishing that trajectory when the Board of Trustees endorsed Vision 2020, the new gold standard in higher education that established aspirations for this university through and to and at its 150th anniversary. How do you like the videos that are coming out every day? What's the first criterion in our reaccreditation document? Mission. All right, see? That's working. And thank you for paying attention to those. Basically what we learned this morning is that we're getting a lot of hits on those videos. Eileen briefed us, and I think each person is staying on for about 4 minutes, which is about the length of those videos. So it turned out to be a great idea. Eileen, thank you for doing that. And I think with that, I will turn the mic over to our Emmy award-winning Vice Provost for Academic Programs, Rex Ramsier.
Thanks for coming. This is a Q&A session about our accreditation site visit. As you're hopefully well aware, the visitors will be here March 3 through 6, the first week of March, Sunday through Wednesday. And we want to give you an update about what to expect and some takeaway messages. So let's just look first of all at the process, so everyone can get on basically the same page about what all this entails. We are a peak institution, a program to evaluate and assess quality. This process is a 10-year cycle, okay? So in 2003, 10 years ago, there was a site visit for a comprehensive reaffirmation of accreditation. And since then, every year we have done an institutional update. Basically, it's a data file that we send to the HLC, Higher Learning Commission. In essence, only institutional research and myself get involved in this process. None of us really know anything about it. We simply submit some data. But about 2 years ago, we began a multi-year process through which we tried to engage as many people as possible to look at the institution with a critical lens and do a self-study. So that was about a 1.5 year or so process. Last summer, we prepared with 6 different writing teams the initial draft report, vetted that through the campus as best we could in the fall, and then submitted it in December, right before the break. So that's the end of the term last year. Here we are now, right before the comprehensive visit, okay? We expect, the team currently has 8 members. These are all volunteers. The peer review corps of HLC is about 1,500 people. Almost all of them are from academics of all walks of life: presidents, provosts, financial officers, faculty, you name it. There's a wide distribution of people on these in the peer review corps, and they pick based on their own criteria the types of people to send to each campus. Okay. They'll be here again from Sunday till Wednesday of the first week of March. What will happen during that time? They are here to ask questions. So they've read our report. They've read all the supporting documents. We have a lot of supporting documents in the resource room. If you haven't logged onto the website through the SharePoint, you should do that, just to see, in essence, the volume of data we have to come to bear on, backing up what we've said in the self-study. So they will, after they leave, write a team report. We'll have a chance to correct errors of fact and nothing else. They'll submit it to HLC. Then we're obligated to have an institutional response. There will be recommendations in the report that we have to respond to. Even if we agree to them, we have to respond that we agree. Eventually, all of that paperwork will go to another set of people. They will do a paper review. Then the Institutional Actions Committee of HLC will actually make the decision about our reaffirmation. Okay? So that's the process, and we're right here. Now, if you're not aware, you saw Tuesday, there are 5 criteria. What I didn't say then is that they're new. These criteria are brand new. They became effective last month. So we're one of the first institutions of the 1,000 that HLC accredits to be evaluated under the new criteria. So that gives us an opportunity to be sort of the guinea pig, okay, if you will. In essence, providing evidence that we meet these criteria that have been recrafted from the way they used to look, okay? They've been reorganized, reshuffled, and things have been added and taken away. Also, the team has to deal with the new criteria. We will have these 8 visitors coming to evaluate us on criteria that they have never used before. Okay, so you can imagine the possibilities and the outcomes, okay, because they're reviewers using criteria they've never used before. They're using them for a campus that's never had to address them before, okay? So the criteria, as you're aware from Tuesday's little video clip, our mission, ethical and responsible conduct. 2 with teaching, 3 and 4 are teaching and learning, but focused on one on the support side and the other on basically classroom and learning outcomes is number 4. And 5, integrated planning and resources. And there's also really, in essence, a 6th that's called federal compliance. It's really not a criterion, but in essence, these have to be met. Okay, we have to have compliance with the federal definitions of credit hour, etc. So those are an assumed, there's actually a list of assumed practices that every institution has to do, regardless of the somewhat more subjective application of the criteria. Okay? Now, these are not independent. If you've looked at the self-study, and if you haven't, I strongly suggest you do, but in particular, at least read the executive summary, so you come up to speed with the majority of the campus and understanding kind of where we're at. These are not independent, okay? In essence, if you don't have ethical and responsible conduct, i.e. have policies in place that treat students and your employees well and in a fair and clear manner, you know, how are you institutionally effective? I mean, these are overlapping, and there is a lot of overlap, okay? But in essence, these are the 5 that we have to address, and we already did. Now, in addition to new criteria, there's actually, the process has been changing, and it will continue to change in HLC. The peer review corps that I'm a member of, and so is Nancy Stokes in the back here, we do site visits for HLC as well. We were trained to be what's called consultant evaluators, CEs. So the team that comes here will have been trained in the mindset they are consultant evaluators, consulting with the campus to give advice on how to advance in the future, and in secondary, evaluating the campus for meeting the criteria. As of the training in November of 12, and I'm one of the trainers now of the peer review corps members, the consultant word went away. They are no longer called consultant evaluators. They're peer review corps members with a focus on evaluation. So the bar has been raised. Now these members have never been in the situation to have to apply this kind of new way of thinking, and campuses have never had to receive that new way of thinking until now. The process is more evaluative, okay? There used to be what's called an advancement section of the team report, which is where they explicitly provided advice to the campuses. That part of the report has gone away. Okay, they can still provide advice, but it's not as obvious. Much less consultative than in the past. Another change is, of course, under the criteria, if you've looked on the website in particular, the SharePoint site, you'll see under each criterion there's core components. So under mission number 1, there's 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. There's core components underneath each one. The new way that the process works is that each one of the core components has a box that the team has to check. Okay? And they have 3 boxes they can check. The institution has met the core component. with or without institutional attention. What that means is if we don't need to pay attention, it means we're flying colors. The institution meets 1A, no questions asked. Versus institutional attention implies we meet it, but make sure you don't lose sight that you have to pay attention to it in the future. Don't backslide, okay? Met with concern means HLC will follow up. And there's basically 4 outcomes with a check met with concern. A monitoring report by the campus that HLC will review. Could be 6 months from now or a year from now. Progress report, which is a more lengthy document, generally. A focus visit, which means they're going to come back. They're going to come back probably in 2 years or 3 or 1. They're going to come back with a focus on a specific issue that they've identified that they think they need to come and check on physically. And on notice is more severe. Of course, not meeting a core component of a criterion is a problem for any institution. Now, another difference here is that you'd imagine you have criterion 1 with 4 core components. And suppose, just conceptually, we're grading a student paper, and you have a met, and a met with concern. You would imagine you'd roll that up into 1 being what? Met with concern. Any met with concern means the whole criterion's met with concern. It requires follow-up by HLC. Okay? So you have to meet them all, or it defaults to the most severe of all possibilities. Okay? That's new as well. Looking at the self-study, and we have these nice trifold pamphlets here that are basically a summary of the executive summary. You will see we tried to roll up from each chapter of the self-study into the executive summary what we, as a campus, identified as what we believe to be our strengths. Here's 6 of them, okay? A new strategic plan. Spent a lot of time and effort on this plan, getting it approved, getting it vetted, approved, and now implementing it. New academic experience. Again, another holistic plan for the campus to address student academic success through the academic support services that we provide, experiential learning and so forth. Effective policies, okay? Systematic program review on the academic side, etc. So we addressed these. We believe, and we tried to provide evidence that these are strengths of the campus. Now the team will look for evidence to indicate to them that they also believe these are our strengths. They may disagree. They may say, well, you think this is a strength, but the evidence indicates to them, at least, maybe otherwise. But I think we've done a pretty good job. It's a very honest report. If you've read it, you probably would agree, I hope. We also identified our own challenges. And from our own self-study, we have identified that we believe we need to grow and diversify our revenue stream. We believe we need to improve our retention, persistence, and graduation rates, etc. These are self-identified challenges. The team will certainly spend most or bulk of its time looking at the data that indicates to us, and does it also to them, that we have challenges in these areas. But most importantly, they're going to want to know what we're going to do about it. The teams don't instruct institutions on what to do or how to do it necessarily. What they do expect is that if we identify that we believe we need to reform our gen ed program, what do we have in place to make it happen? What did we say we're going to do, and are we doing it? Okay? It doesn't have to all be done. There has to be a plan. There has to be infrastructure. There has to be people, resources, whatever it takes to do whatever we need to do to fix these challenges we've identified. We have to be able to address that. Now, everyone in the room doesn't have to know every detail about everything on here, but people in general on the campus have to understand, have an understanding that there is a plan to help mitigate some of these self-identified challenges. So whatever we've said we will do, they'll be checking whether we're doing it now, and they may need to come and check in a year or two if we kept to our word and continue down the path of trying to fix these problems. Okay, so that's really what they'll be looking for. So let's look at, give you an example. Let's look at this one. Improving retention, persistence, and graduation. What is the University of Akron going to do to try to alleviate some of the concerns we have with this challenge? One answer is following what we've called the pathways approach. This pathways approach basically puts newly admitted students or students who are applying for admission into three categories. We've called them preparatory, emergent, and college ready. Now the preparatory students are the students who really haven't prepared themselves or haven't had the school system available to prepare them to come to college. They have low, generally low ACT or SAT scores, low high school GPAs, and they need a lot of remedial training, a lot of remedial courses. These are the students that over time the campus will be recommending that they begin their college career at the local community college. Two reasons. One, we've demonstrated through our own data analysis that we, as a campus, really don't do any better for these students' progress in college than the community colleges. And two, we cost 3 times as much. So in the best interest of the region in Northeast Ohio, of the people who live here, it is in the best interest of the public good, which we serve, to recommend to students that they begin their studies where they can get hopefully a better education simply because there's more attention focused on their needs, but at a much lower cost. If they perform after a semester or two, you certainly are welcome to come here, right? Emergent students are somewhere in the middle. Now, don't focus too much on these numbers. These numbers are going to be defined by the Academic Policies Committee of the Faculty Senate. We've been working on this for several months now, trying to figure out where the numbers are going to fall, okay? But in general, the preparatory students will be the students who are the least well prepared for college, no matter what the numbers. The emergent students are somewhere in the middle. We have now a whole group of people, Adam here and his crowd, are going to help us with a specific intrusive advising model. These are the students that we believe, if we focus more energy in specific ways to address the needs that they currently have, in addition to the academic issues, we can accelerate their performance and hopefully get them to degree completion eventually, okay? College-ready students, we really feel a need to push them, if you will, into degrees, not be undecided for years on end, racking up 180 credit hours with no major. That's not in their best interest. It may be fun for them, but in the long run, there needs to be a little more proactive approach from the university to get these students in and out of some kind of a degree program. So that's kind of the plan. So that certainly you could imagine, well, I can understand how this would affect retention, graduation, etc. Let's look at some numbers or some data. You don't have to remember the data. What you need to remember is the following. If we just look at these 3 categories of students just by ACT score, you can plot the same versus high school GPA. You can plot the same versus a combination of the two. You get the same result. Fall retention rate. What that means, it's a nationally tracked number. Every institution in America has to put this number out in the public. First-time, full-time students who come here in fall of 12, they want a bachelor's degree, they're full-time. What percentage of them come back next fall? That's all this is, the retention rate. Preparatory students have a retention rate, the average is about 50%. So all of the preparatory students we admitted this fall, only half will be back next fall. Okay? Emergent students around 60, college ready around 85. So that's the first series of numbers. 50 and 85% retention rate back the next fall. Now, just because students are retained, just because they come back, doesn't mean they come back in academically good standing. If you look at the GPA earned after the first year at the University of Akron, the preparatory students have average earned GPA less than 2 which means they're on academic probation. Likelihood of success to get to the degree completion is very low. Emergent students about 2.3, barely enough to get into degree granting programs. We have 300 or so undergraduate degree granting degrees here. The 2.3 won't get you into very many of them. Okay? So this is something we need to change. We need these students to be able to do a little bit better so they can get into the degree programs that they aspire to. College-ready students, 3 or above. Okay? Now what's that do to graduation rates? 6-year graduation rate, same way to plot the data. Preparatory students have an average of 10%. 1 out of 10, 10 out of 100 actually graduate from this campus with a bachelor's degree. Emergent students, about a third, about 60% for the college-ready students currently, based on previous data, of course. 6 years ago was a long time for some of us. Okay? So you can imagine if we have more of these students, or even just fewer of these students, our overall graduation rate would automatically go up, right? It's a pretty simple concept. Retention rates will go up, graduation rates will go up, all the numbers that people track nationally now. These aren't our made-up numbers. Everyone in the U.S. has to plot these data or present them to the public. So, simple way to think about it is, yeah, we can fix this, this numbers game with the graduation rates by simply not having this many students and having maybe some more of those. Well, that's probably too simple-minded, because that may help us with these sets of numbers. How does it help us with the revenue? How does it help us manage our enrollment in such a way that there's a plan for the university to improve itself? Okay? Just not admitting some students doesn't make the place any better. Doesn't mean we've done anything really to improve the institution, which is part of this continuous improvement accreditation work. Can we do both at the same time? Can we defer students from admission, therefore not having the revenue, and grow the revenue? How can we have two challenges that we're going to fix at the same time simultaneously that look like they're diametrically opposed? That should concern people in the room. Anybody concerned? How are you going to do both at the same time? I'll give you an example. Just imagine that our incoming freshman class is 100 students. Let's assume that every year we bring in 100 students, new students, and they are in the preparatory category. Okay? Now we have about 25,000 students and about 2,500 employees, 10 to 1, right? Roughly. So for every 100 students we bring in, we need 10 employees. We need 10 employees to process financial aid, to do admissions, to advise them, to teach them, to provide custodial services, everything that we have to do for those 100 students, okay, every year is the same. And we need 10 employees on average to do that work. But they only have a 50% retention rate. So the 100 we bring in next fall, only 50 will be back. If you follow the logic, 4 years from now, actually 6 years from now, there's a 10% graduation rate of these students. Okay, so instead of 6, I compress it to 4 to fit on the screen. But you see the logic that if we have a 50% retention rate and a 10% graduation rate, 4 years from now, we brought in 400 students, and there's only 185 students walking around on campus paying tuition. Okay? Now, there's a thing to think about here that isn't obvious. First of all, 185 students paying tuition, we can calculate how much money that is. Okay? And we know how many employees we needed to have every year to generate that revenue. The state subsidy formula has been changed. The subsidy formula now is heavily reliant on course completion and degree completion. Okay? It used to be heavily reliant on enrollment headcount. It isn't anymore. Now our subsidy depends how many students are right here ready to graduate. Okay? And it depends on how many courses they've passed, okay, in their career. So, without a withdrawal or a failing grade. We all know, for example, that the subsidy by the state of Ohio has been declining, right? So we have to keep raising tuition, and the students and the families bear more of the burden. Everyone recognizes that problem, right? What fraction of our general fund operating budget comes from the state subsidy? Does anybody know? It's got to be small, right? Because we always talk about it as sort of doesn't matter. It's got to be like 2%, right? Or 5, or 10, about 25, about 25%. Our state subsidy is $90 million. And now it's going to depend on graduation and course completion. I take all the faculty salaries on this campus, and I add it to all the contract professional salaries on this campus. It doesn't add up to $90 million. The state subsidy is paying all of us, if you want to think of it that way, to put it into context. We can't neglect what the state is going to do, and is doing, has done with the subsidy formula. This leaves us with 10 students ready to graduate, only 35 taking upper level classes, juniors and seniors. The subsidy formula also weights course level. The course completion part depends on what kind of course they completed. A Gen Ed Humanities course might be worth $80 a credit hour. A senior level engineering course might be worth $600 a credit hour. That comes to us in a check from the state to run the place, okay? So not only depends whether they complete the course, but our revenue depends on what course they completed. The more students you have taking junior and senior level classes, a junior class in English is worth a lot more than a freshman class in English. Okay, so within the discipline, the subsidy goes up, and across disciplines, some disciplines get more subsidy than others. Okay? So remember the number, 185 on campus paying tuition, 10 ready to graduate for the completion of degree kicker, and 35 taking upper level classes. Okay? With 100 new students a year. Let's look at what would happen if we instead brought in 100 students a year that are college ready. 100 a year means we need 10 employees. Same advisor, same financial aid officer, same new student orientation person, right? Same custodian. All the people stay the same. The cost effectively stays the same. But we bring in 100 students that are better prepared for college. 85 come back the next year. 85% retention rate. Follow the logic. 4 years out, 315 students are on campus. Instead of what number? 185. Difference of 130. Enrollment went up. 130 students, $12,000 apiece, $1.6 million more we have in revenue. Just by changing the type of student we bring in. Look at the subsidy piece. 60 are ready to graduate instead of 10. 130 are taking upper level classes instead of 35. Okay? This model can grow the revenue and the enrollment simultaneously and fix the retention, graduation, and persistence challenge that we've identified. Okay? Now, of course, these are extreme cases. Reality is somewhere in between. And I know I have some people here who will argue with me on the numbers. But as an example, you can imagine implementing something like this that could work. But what if we can't get 100 college-ready students? First of all, we have $1.6 million extra, plus the extra subsidy, that we could be using to hire some new recruiters to go out and get them. We could be providing more scholarships. We could have more advisors. Okay? We might have to spend more to get the 100 different kind of students, but we'd have the money to do it. Okay? And at the same time, grow the enrollment and fix the challenge with the retention numbers. But suppose we can't compete, because everyone, most campuses are after these students, right? It's a competition. I'm not afraid of competition. I don't think the University of Akron's afraid of competition. We have to get in the game if we want to compete. But suppose we can't bring in 100. Let's go backwards. Suppose we want the revenue to stay fixed. We want 185 students here in 4 years. We only have to bring in 59 college-ready students a year. Because if you follow the logic, 59 a year will give us 185 on campus paying tuition, so we have the same amount of revenue from the tuition side. But there's 35 ready to graduate instead of 10. There's 76 taking upper-level classes instead of 35. Okay? The amount of money we have here is the same. The subsidy went up, but we only needed 59 students. What's the next step in my logic? If the revenue is fixed, then the cost has to go down. 59 students means we need 6 employees, not 10. It's within our power to decide which model we choose. Compete or not. We're going to have to do something because the state subsidy formula